there was just this one day where I heard my mouth saying, I think I'm supposed to go to Africa, while my head was going, shut up, what are you doing?
Welcome to Daring Breakthroughs, the podcast obsessed with helping professionals at all levels build unstoppable confidence, gain crystal clarity, and create powerful networking connections to create a competitive edge. We share practical strategies and inspiring stories from daring people who have achieved remarkable breakthroughs. I know that if you can see it, you can be it, because I navigated my own career from Walmart to Wall Street. And my friend, you can too. I'm your host and the author of Break Up, Break In, Breakthrough, Jenn Landis. Everyone, we get to visit with one of my dear friends. I'm already tongue-tied because I'm so excited for you to meet Amanda Ray Newman. For over 20 years, Amanda has helped people discover and activate their unique gifts, igniting their passions through art and storytelling. Her engaging speaking engagements and workshops combine her counseling degree and offer audiences the freedom to color outside the lines. And let me tell you from personal experience, she's brilliant at it. She's painted over 200 murals, which are in homes and businesses around the world. That's right, you heard me, around the world. She is the author of 2 books, Art of Pondering and Art of Pondering Navy Edition. She's married to her high school sweetheart and says yes to absolutely every adventure. You can find Amanda at amandarayNewman.com and Amanda Ray Newman on all the socials, and we'll make sure to include her contact information in the show notes. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us. I am so excited to be visiting with you today.
Me too. I cannot wait. I'm so excited about your podcast. I'm so happy to see so many beautiful things just launching for you right now. So many
Oh,
breakthroughs.
I love it. Thank you so much. Amanda and I got to know each other through a speaking program and very quickly hit it off, in part because we're total opposites. I am a type A personality. I don't understand coloring outside the lines. Are you kidding me? No way. I'm one of those people that like reinforces the outline of something before I start coloring it. And Amanda has encouraged me to grow my creativity and to grow outside of my lines. And I'd love for people to hear a little bit about you, Amanda, and just the beautiful free spirit that you are and the impact you've had on the world that is just so uniquely you. So would you mind sharing a little bit of your backstory? Like, were you always into art, or is that something you stumbled into?
Honestly, I was raised by a very type A mother. So my mom was very structured and very neat and very clean. And so in some ways, who I am is my rebellious spirit flaring up all over the place. So I actually have a background in counseling. I have a master's degree in counseling from Auburn University, War Eagle. And during that process, I grew and I learned so many things about myself. One of the things that it kind of activated in who I am, though, is for my own therapy, I started doing art more and more. And it was something that had always been fun and a thing that I enjoyed. But honestly, the deeper I got into hearing other people's problems and helping them wrestle through things, I needed an outlet. And art became that. And somewhere along the way, wise counsel, my husband he's so insightful into who I am. And he said, I think there might be more to art than you're giving it credit for. It might be more than just a little side hustle. And so something in me shifted and art took a more center stage, and it has just launched me into so many fun places and cool adventures. And it's just been the biggest surprise.
So when you started art, did you start with murals or did you start with something else? Like the idea of painting an entire wall. First of all, I don't like painting a single color on an entire wall. Let's just be honest. I'm not a big painter. But the idea of having a picture in your head and then putting it on a wall, it just blows my mind. Did you start there or did you start smaller? Where did you start?
It's funny as we talk about breakthroughs, I've been really thinking through my journey and how I got to where I am. And mine began um, right after I finished grad school. My grandmother passed away. And so I had an uncle who he rented a beach house and he just said, let's just go reconnect as a family and spend some time together. And so we went to the beach. And his wife sat with me and she was asking questions. She's just a curious person. And I think this is one of my things I would love for everyone to take away. I think breakthroughs happen when you're surrounded by people who are curious and give you unique insight because they ask you really good questions. That was very key in a lot of my breakthroughs in my life was surrounding myself with people who were curious. And so she and I sat and talked, and she just inspired me to start dreaming. And I don't know that I thought murals. I didn't have a concept in my head of that. But I heard myself describing it to her. How fun would this be? And the next morning she came down and she said, your uncle and I talked. And we want to hire you to paint a mural in our daughter's room. She's 12. She wants to be a marine biologist, as all 12-year-olds do. And so they gave me this job. I had no idea what I was doing. This was the early 2000s, so you'll appreciate this. I used an overhead projector to project images on the wall because I didn't think I could draw on that scale. And so I projected all these images of orcas and dolphins. And I finished and I got to the end of the transcripts that I had that I projected on the wall. I got to the end of them and there was a hole. There was this space. And the internet wasn't even really a thing. You couldn't like Google images and Google ideas, but I knew it would look really cool to have a sea turtle there. And so I didn't have any other option. I just sketched it. And I stepped back and I looked around, and it was by far the most authentic thing on the wall. And I've never used an overhead projector since. And now a lot of artists, and that's fine, it's project images on the wall. That's totally fine. But for me, it was this breakthrough moment that I could do it from my own unique perspective and create something that was so much more authentic. And so I would say that was a huge breakthrough. It was someone investing in me, and that shifted me into this wild adventure of giving me the whole wall and let me make it pretty and colorful. And
So let's so first of all, thank you for sharing that story. There are so many nuggets there. I mean, curiosity and the nudges that you got first from Brad and then from your aunt and uncle, encouraging you to go in that direction. Let's talk about community because I know you're big on community, and I know that you weren't always the necessarily the social butterfly and the connected person that you are today because you know absolutely everybody and so many you have crossed so many different kinds of groups and people in order to create this very vibrant network, as vibrant as you and your art. How did that get started?
I share this a lot. So I spend a good bit of time with young adults and I encourage them to, as they are like launching into their life. One of the things that I discovered, if you don't like something about yourself, you can change it.
Mm-hmm.
And so growing up, I grew up in a really small town. I just had friends because I grew up with people. And when I left and I went to college, it was so shocking to my system because I went from a really small town to a big university. And I walked on this campus and I didn't know anyone. And I was so lonely. Growing up, I was pretty shy. I was very, very quiet. I went unseen. I was a wallflower. I kind of hung back. In my head, I heard funny jokes. And so I would try to tell jokes to these people I'd grown up with, and it just landed wrong because they didn't expect me to be funny. But when I got to college, and even after that, I decided to try it. I said, I've got some funny thoughts in my head. And so I tried to start working that into my life. And something shifted in that transition phase. So when you're going through transitions, one of the things I've learned is one, that's a perfect time to let go of characteristic traits about yourself that you've just outgrown. And a lot of times we let things tag along with us that we have long since outgrown. And it disserves us because it keeps us in bondage, it holds us back. And so as you grow and as you evolve, keep evaluating, is this who I am? Is this still who I am? Or is this just something that I can shift in my life and have a breakthrough? And so I think that's one of the things that's really impacted my experience with people around me. I started allowing myself to be more authentic. I started sharing my heart, and I started sharing some of the funny jokes in my head. And it created this neat community that I had not had before as someone who kind of held back and shrunk away. And so I would say, as you're growing and evolving, give yourself the freedom to color outside of the lines, because often we'll box ourselves in to this expectation of people around us. And I think it limits us in ways that maybe we underestimate how impactful that is.
So good, Amanda. So much there from the you can change it if you want to. Just that empowering message that if there's something you don't like about yourself, you have the power, the control, the ability to grow into something else. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to come easily. I have to imagine going from
Right.
someone who's super shy, which by the way, I have a really hard time picturing you as that person, knowing you as I do. I have such a hard time picturing you in that space. And yet I know even in my own life that there were times that I was different versions of myself that I'm not today. And that's because I worked on them intentionally. So I love that message that we do get a choice in this thing called life, called our personality, called all the things. We get a choice. So I love that. And I love that you started letting out those funny little things in your head because you are a delight to be around and you are always funny and you always bring a smile to my face. I just love it. So let's talk a little bit about some of the work that you've done that surprised you. Like you didn't think you'd be an artist. You didn't think you'd be doing over 200 murals across the world. So let's talk about some of the interesting places your journey has taken you that you just never would have seen coming.
Okay, the one that stands out, when I had been married a few years and we had just had our first son. He was at this point 12, 15 months old, and we were working with young adults. And there was an opportunity to go overseas to do mission work in Rwanda, Africa. And I didn't even consider it. So at that time, I was not necessarily afraid of things, but also not very confident in my ability to go do extreme things. So again, there was still that part of me that held back. There was just this one day where I heard my mouth saying, I think I'm supposed to go to Africa, while my head was going, shut up, what are you doing? And so I went on, and I'm just going to tell you something. If you would like to know people's opinion about your life, you should leave a new baby and go to a third world country because their opinions come out in overwhelming proportion. But I knew it was something I was supposed to do. So I was 30 years old and I went on my first mission trip to Rwanda. And while we were there, I like to tell this part of the story because I think a lot of times we really glamorize these big moments in our life. And my first trip to Africa was horrible. I was terrible. We were there to do evangelism and just to go out into the crowds and talk to people. And I was not good at that. And I didn't enjoy it. I'm not an overly emotional, you won't see me cry very often, but I cried so much on that trip because I felt like such a failure. This felt like this big thing I was supposed to do. And I stepped out and I did it. And it was a flop. And so I think I want to always share that part of the story because I think the temptation is to only share the breakthrough.
Mm.
But if we only share the breakthrough, when people don't have that moment when they put themselves out there, they assume that's it and they quit. And so while we were on that trip, we were working with an African pastor. His name is John Baptiste, and he's very loud and very animated. And so he, bless his heart, there were 19 of us on that trip. Most of them were teenagers. If you can just even imagine the emotional and hormonal situation we were in, we were all in this new experience, and it was wild. And I was a whole mess, and I was there as the adult in the room. And so he went around and he really took the time to get to know all of us, and he was curious. And so he asked me one day, Amanda, what do you do in America? What do you do? That's my African accent. And I told him what I do. I said, I love to paint. I create art and I do things like that. And he lit up and he said, we need you. We need you to come back and teach the women. And I had sworn every night when I cried myself to sleep on that trip, I was like, if I can get home, I will never come back. But when he said that, something shifted in me, and I felt this sense of purpose and value and hope. And I was back 6 months later, and I was able to teach the women. We taught different things, different lifestyle things. One of the things that I've learned from John is how powerful it is to equip people to teach their gifts. And so he invited us back to teach what we're good at, because when you're in a third world country, you don't have access to a lot of education. And so we were able to do a lot of education, medical stuff. We get to do a child sponsorship. We get to do a lot of things. And I got to come back and teach the women how to make art. And it just sort of felt like a dream come true that I didn't know I had dreamed. And so that moment was such a clear catalyst in my life that led to, not only did I find this deeper sense of purpose with the things that I loved at home, I was able to help women on the other side of the world suddenly make money for the first time ever. It helped women who were living absolutely in fear of starvation. Now they're able to not only feed their family, but now they're helping other families who are worried about starving. They have money, they have resources, because I taught them how to sew, because I taught them how to make products. It blew my mind that I could have an impact like that with something, let's be honest, as fluffy as art. And so those skills that don't even seem that impressive in our world changed everything for them. And so, like I said, I shared a little bit about this, but one of the things that we did was we had teams come in that were nurses and doctors, and they started doing a little medical training. And one of the things that's come out of that is there is a huge need for a medical clinic in the village that we're working in. And so we have over the years raised money to build a medical clinic. So one of the breakthroughs that happened in me happened when I had an idea. I wanted to help with the medical clinic. But as you can imagine, an artist is sort of a feast or famine kind of career. So there's sometimes some money and oftentimes hopes and dreams. And, there's not always a way to have just tons of money, but I have this desire in my heart to be generous. And so I was in a situation with my kid's pediatrician, and I started just dreaming with her and talking things out. And I said, do you think there's a chance that other doctors would want to be part of helping build this medical clinic? Even things like, what if I created art for their offices and we donated half of it towards the medical clinic? And she said, maybe some would, maybe some wouldn't. What I didn't know was she was secretly in the process of borrowing money to build her own office in town. And once that was done, she called and she said, hey, that idea you had lit me up inside. I couldn't say anything then, but I want to hire you to come in and paint murals in each one of my exam rooms, in the main areas, in the walkways. And so through that desire to be generous, that exposure, and through someone taking a chance, I have now painted 3 full doctor's offices and donated thousands of dollars to help build a medical clinic in Rwanda. And so I think that one of the things I'd like to say is your breakthrough, if it's a real breakthrough, it should impact more than just you. So a genuine, life-changing breakthrough should be so much larger than you are. And the ripple effects and the implications of it should spread. And I think if we're dreaming of things that are a breakthrough for me right now and my family right now, I don't know that you're dreaming big enough. And so, one of the things that I've learned by the people who've taken a chance on me and who've had curious questions and led me to things that just I didn't even know to dream of is to dream a little bigger and to ask questions and to encourage the people you're around to really discover what their gifts are and to be brave enough to go for it.
This is so classic Amanda. I'm just, for those that are listening, you can't see my face, but I'm smiling so big through this whole thing. I just absolutely love this. There's just so many components here that I would love to unpack and just spend a little time kind of just thinking about a little bit deeper and reinforcing here, Amanda. So you talked about kind of a breakdown before you have a breakthrough. We heard about this
Yes.
from Jenny Milton in our last interview podcast episode 3. I have never had a breakthrough that didn't involve more than one breakdowns. And I think sometimes, going back to your concept of curiosity, we don't always enter a headspace of problem solving, which is hand in glove with curiosity, right? When you have something to solve
Right.
that is bigger than your current skill set to solve, if you don't get curious, you're going to get stuck. Curiosity
Yes.
takes you out of that stuck place into places that you were not willing or interested in, or maybe just didn't even know were possible to explore. Curiosity leads you there. And so this idea of curiosity and our vulnerability to curiosity when we are in the closet crying, which is my favorite crying place, and I try not to do it too often, but I have my own crying jag location, and it's a stool in my closet. I don't know why, just it feels safe to me. And so when my world is
Yes.
tumbling around me, that's where I go to purge and to really just kind of empty, which then allows me to have space to go explore something else, right? So I
Right.
love that. We also talk about it a lot around here as a spark, that spark of curiosity, that spark of imagination. But sparks require fuel. And sometimes that fuel is a
Right.
breakdown. Sometimes that fuel is a supportive husband or a supportive mentor like John Baptiste. Comes from a lot of different places. And I love this idea that breakthrough should be bigger than you are, because I think when we start our breakthrough journeys, very often our dreams are small. We play little. And again, I think that's in part because our ability to think it's something you have to practice. I really believe that you have
Right.
to practice thinking bigger than what you think is possible, because I think we're fighting imposter syndrome the whole time we're doing it, right? Like you said, yeah,
Absolutely.
you were talking to yourself and you were like, shut up. What did you just say? You said you're going to Rwanda, right? That voice is so loud in our heads. And I think that voice is very, very vocal when we stay inside our little composed boundaries. When you get outside the boundaries, actually, I'm going to correct myself. I think it's louder when you get outside your boundaries, because I think those voices are trying to get you back into a safe space.
Ooh. Ooh, say that again.
Yeah.
Yes. You're not wrong.
Yeah. So it's just brings home the point that, first of all, this is normal and we all go through this.
Right.
You don't achieve big things without feeling big things and struggling through
Right.
big things. But the other thing you said that I love, Amanda, that I want to sit on for a minute, is that you used the gifts you had, but you applied them in other ways, in new ways, in different ways, as you allowed yourself to dream bigger. Something as fluffy as art. What a great, what a great quote, and what an emotional statement. Because I bet you people reacted emotionally to that. Those that are into art would be like, no, 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 wait a minute. Art isn't fluffy, right? And others are going, wait a minute.
Right.
If art can make a difference, maybe what I've got can make a difference.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
love it. I love it so much.
I share that, and I share that not to minimize what I do, but just because I know that people who are listening have skill sets that far exceed what I have. And that's not to cut me down. That's to say, if if I can do it with this, imagine what's possible with what you have. And I think some people listening may not, it may go one of two ways. You may automatically think, well, I've got so much more. Or you may sit there and go, I mean, I don't even know what I have to work with. And I'm telling you, it doesn't necessarily matter what it is. It's your willingness to use it. And so for if you're struggling to identify what is my gift, what is my skill, I want to encourage you to sit with a friend, sit with someone who knows you and ask, what do you see in me? What am I missing? I think one of the biggest questions that we are not asking, because probably we either haven't thought about it or if we do, we're terrified to ask it, is what are my blind spots?
Mm.
What am I missing? And I think that can go good and that can go bad. There are blind spots that keep us trapped because we're doing things in a way that isn't helpful and life giving. And there's also blind spots that just because it's common to you doesn't mean it's common. And so you have skills that are completely usable and astronomical and unusual in this world, but they may not seem that shiny to you because they're just you. It's not that impressive to you. And so having someone else reflect that back to you is so beneficial. The day that John asked, said, oh my goodness, we need you to teach the women art, I would not have thought of that in a million years if someone else hadn't said it. And so I think kind of circling back to the idea of community, how critical community is. If we live in this vacuum of our own thoughts, it's going to be dark and musty. And it could either grow in the sense of we become so prideful that we miss it, or we become so demoralized that we miss it.
Mm.
And having that refinement of other people reflecting back what you're good at and you reflecting back on them, building that community of people that you can be authentic with, that know you well enough to say, hey, you're actually really good at this and it's not normal. Like, this is something significant. Have you considered? And they're curious. Who we surround ourselves with impacts who we become. And so I think there's something wonderful about constantly having fresh people that you're around. That's one of the things I think, Jenn, that has been so beneficial in my life is you came out of nowhere from the speaking network. And suddenly I would say you've become someone who's invaluable to me because your feedback and your thoughts are just life-giving. And the conversations that we have a country apart, we're so far apart from each other. If you can't tell from my accent, I'm in the South. But it's just so life-giving. And a lot of that is we put ourselves in unique situations. We put ourselves out there to try new things. And we're surrounded by new people that give new thoughts and new ideas. And it's fresh and it's life-giving. So I just want to encourage people, if you need a breakthrough, you're going to need to do something new, try new things. It's going to challenge you, but it's going to almost always be amazing. And if it's a flop, it may just be one of the steps you have to take to get to the other side.
Oh, so good. So good. I want to go back to a couple of things you said because I think they're, again, just so good. And one of them, I want to make sure I say this. We have a tendency to put values and judgments against our skill sets. Aren't things that should have judgments about them. Art is not more or less important than medical, is not more or less important than counseling, is not more or less important than math skills and engineering, is not more or less important than anything else. A full life requires all of these. And so we are so good about putting judgments because we attach ourselves to our skills. And because we're so willing to judge ourselves, we then judge and put a value judgment on the thing that we do. And we shouldn't. It goes back to what you said. It's what you do with it. It's how you use it. It's how you share it. I think it was an insight for me as you were talking about it, I was like, man, I do that to myself. I box myself in
Yeah.
on something that is inherently valuable, regardless of my thoughts about it. It's valuable. And so
Right.
putting a judgment
Mm.
on it diminishes it because I'm actually diminishing myself. Right. And
Mm.
so
So good.
I
Yeah.
think that that was an insight I had as you were talking. I also was thinking
Mm.
about the fact that, we talk about holding mirrors up. I use this analogy of being a mirror holder for other people and letting other people be a mirror holder for me because we can't see sometimes what we are reflecting into the world and what we're reflecting back. And so you and I are mirror holders. We'll get on the phone and we'll just talk to each other like this, and we'll hold up a mirror and we'll be like, did you just hear what you just said? Let me just repeat that back
Mm-hmm.
to you. Either it was phenomenal and you're not giving yourself credit for it, or it was self-limiting and you didn't even realize you said it, right? And I think it's so important that community can help you do that, right? And you don't
Yes.
and
So
you don't
true.
know where that community person is going to come from. I can't imagine my life pre Amanda Ray,
I
and yet we
know.
haven't known each other all that long.
Same.
And for those of you that are
Right.
listening, I have not actually been in the same room physically with Amanda Ray. We haven't yet done that. We're a country apart, and yet she's one of my closest friends. So it just goes to show things can look very different than what you expect in your head. And then lastly,
Right.
the if you can
Yes.
see it, you can be it. Oh, I'm so all about that, right? I started at Walmart.
Mm.
I started at Walmart working 3 jobs, right? Yeah, I ended up ringing the bell on the New York Stock Exchange, and it was an amazing journey with lots of breakdowns, more breakdowns than breakthroughs, right?
Yeah.
They go hand in glove. And so I just love this concept. If you can see it, you can be it. And you can expand your community without having to have a personal relationship, as in sitting on a phone with someone. You can be inspired by someone you don't know that you're following, especially nowadays with social media and just all of the different ways we can engage with people. And there have been many times in my life when I have looked up to, whether it was a Mel Robbins or it was, a Brene Brown, or it was someone in my company that I didn't actually know, but that I was just enamored with what they were doing and thought, man, I can really learn from that
Right.
person. So I would encourage people to cast a broad net as you're practicing curiosity and see whom you might
Yes.
want to maybe not emulate, but could be inspired by and get ideas from.
Right. Yes. So much. And then go a step further. Be brave. Reach out to them. See if you can and have a chat with them.
So,
Ooh.
Amanda, tell me,
Sometimes they say
what
yes.
what does pizza have to do with community?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Um, so Jen loves this story. When I told you that I was very, very shy, but I didn't know how to, and I didn't know how to make friends because I had just never had to. So I went to Auburn, and the first class I went into was this math class. First of all, artist, I became an artist. So you can just, you do the math. It was not my favorite class. So you walk into this math class and there's 100 kids in there and you don't, and you're just lost. You're just this tiny little fish in this massive pond. And across the room, there was a girl that I recognized from our college, from our orientation. And I felt these little bubbles inside. I was like, oh, I know her. Does she know me? And our eyes met. And I swear there was like music and maybe fireworks that went off because we both were so lonely.
Mm.
And so we saw each other across the room and we connected. And I don't honestly remember how it happened, but I think probably me because I'm more brave with things like this or reckless, whatever. But I'm sure I said, hey, can we go get lunch? And so I love pizza. So it was an obvious choice. And so we went to Mellow Mushroom, a local pizza place, and we met there on a Friday. And it was so magical to have time with a friend. And I think we both needed that so much. She had moved from South Carolina. So we were very far away from anything we knew. And so somehow along the way, that became our weekly thing. So every Friday, we knew even if we went all week and didn't really know anybody and felt super lonely and weren't sure where we fit into this whole new world we were a part of. We knew that on Friday at 12:30, we were going to meet for pizza with a friend. And it was grounding. And I will say it became a lifeline for me. I looked forward to that all week. And so that was almost 30 years ago. And every Friday, I'm still at Mellow Mushroom at 12:30. And I do that intentionally because I have like this life mantra that's nobody's lonely on my watch. And so if someone's lonely, they're invited. Honestly, if you just want to hang out with friends, it's an open invitation. It's known in my city now. I'm in a new city now in Georgia. And it's known that if you want to hang out with somebody, I'll be at Mellow Mushroom in the back room at 12:30 on Fridays. And people just show up and they know that. And the groups have ebbed and flowed over the years. And I can't even calculate how many people have been part of eating pizza on Friday at 12:30. And it's so simple. I think one of the things that we get tangled up by is we overcomplicate everything, especially if you're trying to build a community. You have all these theories and these ideas of what it needs to look like. And maybe it doesn't. Maybe it looks like asking a friend to go get pizza and then doing it the next week too and saying, hey, I really like doing this every week. It gives me something to look forward to, and inviting other people to come along with you. And you'd be shocked at how many people are so hungry for something that simple and that consistent. And so I would say, be creative. I'm going to tell you to color outside the lines in all different facets of your life. And this is simple. If you're lonely, be creative in how you fill that need. And I would say research is exploding on this. We are a lonely generation. Stop being lonely. Ask a friend to lunch and then ask that friend to go to lunch again. And it doesn't have to be your bestest friend. The groups that come to lunch with me are so diverse and so different and so random. And some of the friendships that have sprouted from that have been so fun to watch, because you have this person come in with this quality that's so different than everyone else. But then next week, this other person shows up and they click and they bond. And next thing you know, Saturday night, they're hanging out again. It just builds a community in a safe, simple way, and it's pizza. Now, I will give you the caveat. I have gained some pounds from doing this. I am a little fluffier than I was 30 years ago, and I fully blame Mellow Mushroom, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Because what I've gained is more than just pounds. I've gained such a huge community of friends that'll be forever from just a slice of pizza and a Diet Coke, because balance.
In all things, in all things.
And
In
all
all
things.
things. I love it so much. Amanda, thanks so much for spending time with me, with us today. I am blessed beyond measure to have you in my community, and to have you as a sister. And I love you to pieces. And I just thank you for all the things. How can people follow you? Because no one's going to listen to this and not want more Amanda Ray. So help me. How can people find you? How can they engage with you? How can they work with you? How can they get more of this goodness?
Well, I would love to get to know all of your listeners. I genuinely want to get to know you guys. So follow me. I'm on social Instagram. I have a little TikTok, but I'm not on there so much. Maybe one day. Um, Facebook, YouTube, follow my website, amandarraynewman.com. Sign up for emails. I'll send out emails. And if you email me, I'll reply to you, because I don't know. I don't have anybody else on my team. It's me. I'm the girl behind the scenes too. So connect with me. I would love to get to know you all better and learn your stories and hear your dreams, and help you be curious, help you build a stronger sense of community. I'm here for it all. Come see me.
And you also speak.
And if you need a little art, here, I'm going to throw this in too. If you need a little art in your life, I'm your girl. Let me know. We'll make something amazing.
There you go. Whether it's a mural or a canvas, I actually own some of Amanda's art, and it's beautiful. But you're also on stages. So if anyone is out there and they need a speaker who talks about creativity and curiosity and coloring outside the lines, Amanda Ray Newman can be reached at her website, amandarraynewman.com. Thank you for joining me and my friend Amanda for this episode of Daring Breakthroughs. Don't forget to check the show notes for free tools and all of the links related to this episode. And if you found value in this episode, and I know you did, I invite you to review, to like, and to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. While you're at it, let's connect on social media. I'd love to hear from you. You can find me nearly everywhere with the handle Ask Jenn Landis. That's Jenn with 2 N's. And if you need a speaker for your next event, I'm your girl. Check out my website at jennlandis.com. Again, Jenn with 2 N's, for all the ways we can work together. Until next time, share an insight you gained today with a friend, and then apply that insight by making one bold move. I dare you.